Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Ben, and this is another edition of Fresh Red Kills. So Fresh Red Kills is where I talk about books that I have recently finished reading. And I got kind of a stranger one today, different especially for me. I have two graphic novels, superhero graphic novels, that are written for a younger audience. But I read these for a very specific reason, and I thought I would share that and share my thoughts on it and see what other people think about it. So I am a middle school social studies teacher, and I have begun, as of last year, a voluntary participation in this, but it is a history book club where each month we talk history. We basically, pick a book. It could be a nonfiction book, a historical fiction book, sometimes graphic novels, but not superhero graphic novels, that talk about history. And we read it and we discuss. And, I have a kind of a core group of students who enjoy it, and we just have a good time with it. It's just another way to kind of connect with students and talk about history and our love of reading. And I have, over the past semester, been to a couple of Scholastic book fairs, and I kept seeing this book, actually, in them. All right, this is published by Scholastic here, this Captain America graphic novel. And it was always in the history section, not in the graphic novel section. And I found that very curious, and it did make me start thinking, okay, so could I use superhero graphic novels to draw, readers in and use it as an opportunity to talk about real history? And I had actually bought this for my son earlier this year when he and I went to a Hyde Park to go and visit the FDR home. There's also a Barnes & Noble near there, so we had gone in there and he was wanting graphic novels, and I picked this up for him. So I thought, I'll give this one a try to see if that's possible. And this was also one that was very popular. And my school library had this. I borrowed it from them. Superman Smashes the Klan. So I figured I'd give them a shot and see if I could really use them for history. So I guess I'll start with this one since it's in my hand. And I will say that this is written for, I think, a slightly younger audience than this one. This is more YA maybe, but this is almost like more middle grade. And we have Captain America and Bucky in World War II. And they're going against basically an evil sorcerer in a castle out in like Eastern Europe. Or Central Europe, I don't quite remember exactly. And this sorcerer has the ability to conjure up ghosts, which they have to fight. So we have the Ghost Army, but the Ghost Army also refers to a real unit in the American Army, I think in the last year at least of the war, which was called the Ghost Army. And they also feature in this. And that unit was basically in charge of deception, of trying to convince the Germans that the Allies had far more resources and men than they actually had. So it would be things like inflatable tanks and inflatable planes that from a distance would look like the real thing, using audio and fake broadcasts in order to fool the enemy. And we see a little bit of that in here. They do feature in here. I do wish that they featured a little more prominently. So overall, I would say that this was one that was written more for the middle grade audience. I think a little bit younger than what I'm looking for to get out of the book club. And also, there's some history in here. Things like the Ghost Army. There's a little bit of talk of World War I having happened in the same areas. We get a little bit about the prejudice against the Romani. But overall, I didn't think that there was enough history in here for me to use this for the purposes that I wanted. They're not going to get enough out of about World War II from this. So it's fine for, especially like a fifth grader or something like that. But for my purposes, this isn't really going to work out. But then this one. So this one I think will. This is Superman Smashes the Klan. And this was actually really fascinating. I was impressed by this. This is a story that takes place in 1946, so just after World War II. And it's actually based on a radio series about Superman that was published in broadcast in the 1940s. And it was like a Clan of the Fiery Cross, I think, or something like that. The writers legally, for legal reasons, couldn't quite say KKK. They couldn't say Ku Klux Klan, but everybody knew that's what it was. And Superman in that broadcast helps to bring down the Ku Klux Klan. And interestingly, that broadcast might have helped to quell the growing popularity of the Klan, of the KKK, which had been growing in popularity again in the post-war. And people, this Superman broadcast was incredibly popular. And, it basically where they're hearing Superman moralizing, condemning racism, and the Klan is depicted as basically buffoons. And that probably, had a hand in making people reject the Klan as it was starting to rise again in the late 1940s, which is fascinating, right? So that basic story is taken as inspiration to create this. So this was written by Luen Yang, and art by Girihiru. Now, I am not entirely, this is beyond my wheelhouse, I should say. I know that he's done a lot of stuff with the Avatar series, and other people probably know this artist a lot more than me. But overall, the art was pretty good. So it's a little bit manga-esque at times, but not too much. It's still more like American traditional. But pretty good art. And what we have is 1946. There is a Chinese family that moves from Chinatown to basically the suburbs of Metropolis. And they are, basically harassed by the Klan of the Fiery Cross, who burn a cross on their property. And the viciousness of the racists starts escalating. And we have Superman, and this Superman is more like the Superman of the 1930s and early 1940s, when he didn't fly yet, right? So he could leap tall buildings in a single bound. So this Superman could run fast, he can jump really high, and he's very strong, but he doesn't have all the powers that we associate with him. Not yet. That's one of the things in this, is him, kind of discovering powers. And we have a nice parallel between this Chinese family trying to fit in and Superman as an alien, a literal extraterrestrial, trying to also fit in with humanity, feeling like a total outsider. And meanwhile, the racists are seeing him as like the epitome of a Caucasian male. And that's just a little bit of here. I mean, there's a lot going on in this. It's more complex than you might otherwise think, and it all blends, I think, really, really well. Good characters, good themes that come together in a really satisfying way, and some comic book goodness. And so at the end, also there is a pretty good essay by Yang, where he goes into the various histories here. So we have the history of the KKK. We have the history of the way the Chinese have been treated in America. We have, the legacy of World War II as well. We have the history of Superman and how he has played a role in American popular culture and history, and how all that stuff starts intersecting and blending. And you can see from that essay how much was given, or how much of it inspired elements in here. So this is actually one that I think I could use with students to discuss things like immigration and bigotry and, the legacy of World War II. And this, even things like, if I look here, I can have students focus on material culture. None of them have ever seen a phone booth before. And here we have the classic, Clark Kent going into a phone booth to become Superman. So I could tell them, pay attention to what's inside the rooms, pay attention to the technology. What does the phone look like? Look at, here's Clark Kent at a typewriter. So there's a lot, actually, I think I could do with this with students. So I do plan to, at some point in the year, do this for the book club. I think that would be good. I was hoping I could do like a double feature, do like 2 weeks or a week of this and then 2 weeks of that. But I think it's just going to end up being this one. So I would actually highly recommend this. Remember, it's a YA, so it's for younger people, but it's very, very well done. So if that sort of thing appeals to you, I would recommend it. So anyhow, This is kind of a weird theme for this video, but that's how it goes sometimes. So the two graphic novels that I'd read were Captain America Ghost Army and Superman Smashes the Klan. So if you've read any of these, I'd love to hear your thoughts, or, even if you haven't read them, I'd like to hear your thoughts anyway. As always, thank you, BookTube.